everybody. Welcome to Truth Teller Tales. I'm Ellen, and this is our new series, Labor of Love, where Tricia and I will be interviewing those folks who, through their love and support, have helped those truth tellers get out their really important information during this most incredible time of the awakening. And it truly is a labor of love. So, the first person I want to introduce is Tricia, because she's going to be co hosting with me. Hi, Cackle Smack.
Hi.
How are you?
That was our first opening played. That was beautiful. I'm so excited. Your daughter just did such a lovely job on that logo. It's
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and we wanted to reflect that this whole thing is just truly such a labor of love. And, you have been a part of this, and you reached out to me once we met on the huddle with Mark Messina and Parallel 8 Media, um, that you wanted to do something like this. So before we introduce the guest, tell us your background a little bit of how you started in this world.
yeah. I my big wake up call, like most people in this movement, was COVID, and then being locked down. I was online just looking for answers, and got down pretty dark rabbit holes pretty quickly. But I think a lot of what us graduated with is the Charlie Wards and the X-22, and then the Ninos, and I think the audience has just sort of graduated. And Patriot Underground, I followed very early on and started. I was involved in some of his Patriot panels just as an ordinary listener who wanted to find a tribe and talk about what was going on. And I was under Carolina Cowgirl, and from there I got introduced to news treason, and that's when my world got so much calmer and so much saner. Dave just has a way of calming people down and looking at things and laying things out and identifying trends. And you go, you know what? That makes sense. And then Rambo followed after that. And I met them at the Great Awakening, General Flynn's Great Awakening, General Flynn, Clay Clark, last October. So it's been a little over a year. And literally the first 5 minutes after I was there, I actually saw them. I had General Flynn behind me, and I was going to go introduce myself and meet him. And then I saw Dave and Rambo walk by, and I screamed their names out. And then they introduced me to Abs, who was also at the event. And then the following month, I went to GART down in Myrtle Beach, and saw them again. Literally the first 5 minutes I'm in the parking lot, they go walking right by my car. So we always talk about, it's sort of a God thing. It was just sort of meant to be. And it's just been a phenomenal year ever since then of digging more and more into this community. But I've never been able to figure out what my purpose is. And I got more and more involved with the chats, and we can talk a little bit about that when the girls come on. But it's because of these moderators that pulled me more into the community. I wasn't just a viewer, and then I found myself having to go back and rewatch these shows because I would be talking so much in the chat that I had to kind of learn to listen and absorb, and then still be social. And I started finding that I really miss these people when I miss the show, and I try to watch them live as much as I can. And it's a different experience when you're listening to them later, because I'm like, oh man, I wish I listened to this live, because then I could have been involved. And so when I reached out to you, I just had an idea about, hey, when you get done introducing the Patriots, you might want to start interviewing the moderators, because they're really instrumental in this community. And you were so kind to come back and say, I want you to do this with me. It was your idea.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, maybe this is a start of what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm trying to figure out how to give back. Not just share, but sit on my butt, but I just keep feeling like I want to do more. And I'm real thankful that Mark had us on the huddle, because that's what got you and I introduced. And
I know, yay!
Yeah. And then I started binge watching your shows, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, Well, and that's what's so cool because I think all of us have that same mentality. We want to do more. We want to do more. How else do we, and so this is all kind of happening the way it's supposed to be happening. And so, without further ado, I just want to bring on these ladies because, to share their stories and how intricate it is to be a moderator and how it changes the whole flow and the whole aspect of each, show that they're involved with. It's just miraculous to me, and so I can't wait to speak to both of them, so I'm gonna bring them both on. Hi, Medexam, how are
Hey,
you? Both? Yeah,
Great to see everybody. Medexam here.
yay. Yay, it's great to see you, and Chickaboom, how are you?
unmute yourself, Chickaboom.
You're muted.
I'm such a pro.
Are you there?
There you
Hey,
go. Great to see you, Chickaboom.
Hey there.
great. Great to see you. I really, it's just so cool because the shows that I watch, it's your names that I see up there and really motivating people and making people feel included and so I want to start with you, MedExam. How did you start with all of this and what you're doing in this little corner of the world that we're in?
Well, I've been searching for the truth for quite a while, as most of us have. And I started, like most people, with Patriot Underground, a long time ago, followed all of the great truthers, Dave, Rambo, Abs, Stormy, Mark, and I was in the chats live. When I first got in the chats, I was so excited to watch a live. And I put my name, I just said, hello, and nothing happened. And I felt like really kind of sad. And I'm like, I'm going to try again. I see all these awesome people talking to each other. So I just said, hey, everybody, nothing happened. And I really felt, but then I said, you know what? I'm going to try one more time. I tried one more time, and this awesome person named Penny Lane saw me and she said, welcome to the chat. And really, that made all the difference because maybe I'm sensitive, but sometimes I feel invisible. And I've said that in the chats. I said, you know what? I'm going to go in the chats and I'm going to make sure no one ever feels invisible again. And I'm going to try really hard. I don't care how long it takes just to make sure everyone feels welcome and seen. And that's what I did. And and then after a while, because I kept doing that, I kind of was like a fake moderator, like fake news. But some of the very awesome Chickaboom, Magadai, AC 9771, KDD, Penny Lane, Ab's Wifey, all of the great moderators. A couple of people said, do you want to moderate? I'm like, sure, but I'm not that great at tech, but I'll be happy to say hi to people and stuff. So that's what I've been doing first on BB McGuire's show, which I am so honored to be a moderator. She is phenomenal and able to explain a lot of the medical stuff. I'm a medical doctor myself, forensic pathologist. So I can tell you she's explaining that better than any doctor or healthcare professional. I'm just humbled to be in there. And I'm also an official moderator on Rambo right now. So I'm trying, but I go on other shows, DC Lidstone. There's so many awesome shows. And I just like to welcome people and make sure people are seen and heard.
Yeah. Well, you definitely do that, and I think it's very cool that you're the moderator for BB because and being a doctor, Dr. Medexam, that that you appreciate that. I mean, that's fantastic, but your name pops up everywhere, and it's so you're just so welcoming, and obviously you're taking from your experience when you were not and that's kind of what we're all doing at this point too is our experiences are helping us everybody's life experiences, you know. So Chickaboom, what an honor it is for you to be here, and
Oh, thank you.
thank thank you for doing this. So tell us kind of your a bit of your journey of getting to this corner of the world with us.
Well, I think like most people, back in 2020, um, I wouldn't take the vaccine and just kind of started doing some digging. The biggest one I listened to, I think, was Dave from X22.
Mm-hmm.
I would take him on my walk every morning with me and plug in my earphones and just, spend that hour just absorbing everything that he had to say. A couple others were Scott McKay from Patriot Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And Nino, like Tricia had said, kind of listened to him. And then I thought about it for a while, with the vaccine stuff. And back in the early to mid 70s with the swine flu, I was old enough to be, I'm old enough now to remember back then. I refused to take it back then too. Just thinking the harder that the government pushed it, there's got to be something wrong with it. So it's like, I didn't really realize that back then I was kind of stubborn that way too, back in those early years. But as far as the moderating goes, I just started 6 months ago. And I would be in the chats, like you said, Chase, you'd be in the chats and just wanting people to feel welcome. Lulu's the one that pulled me in. Lulu, I think it's 12, 18. I forget what the numbers are for her, but she's always very welcoming, and just knowing that just reaching out and saying hi to somebody and make them feel included will bring them in more and more comfortable. And so I would just kind of welcome people in, or just, say hi. And I was in Kate's chat, and I'm sitting there, hit the thumbs up button and welcoming people. And then Real AF was in that chat. It was right before he was starting his shows. And to be honest, I didn't know who he was. And he had put a message in the chat saying, would you contact me when the show is over? And so I did. I sent him a note, and he asked me if I would mod for his new show. And I said, well, I'd be happy to, but I'm not a mod and I've never done it. I didn't want him to pull me in under false pretenses, kind of to say. And so he took a chance on me, and I just kind of learned through the ropes. There's another gal in there, PFC Peanut.
Oh, I love, right.
And she helped me a lot on that. So kind of learned from her, and it's been 6 months, and I enjoy it a lot. And then I also moderate for DC Lidstone about 3 nights a week. So between the two of them, it's about five shows a week that I do.
Yeah, and that's why it is such a labor of love, because you all are in there for the length of those shows, and some of those shows are long, and then you go on to other shows. It's just it's mind-blowing to me. Don't you think so, Tricia? It's the dedication.
It is. And I was thinking, I was just chuckling because Abs and Stormy had the other night had like a 4-hour show on Sunday night. And then I was like, oh, that's why Patriot Underground's on.
Right.
Because I love him, but he's definitely gregarious. And so when you think about that kind of a commitment, I mean, it's, it is a labor of love, because you're not getting paid, and you are, I can go and, I can go and listen to the replay later if I want. I can pause it, come back to it, but you're committing to showing up. And other people, come to count on you, whether that's fair or not. But it's a huge labor of love and loyalty. It's a big commitment, and I just want you girls, you ladies, to know how big of a difference that you made for me. I know Penny Lane was, I think, the first one that reached out to and welcomed me or started chatting with me, and then Medexam. And I watched Medexam. It
Me.
doesn't matter. Every person that would be coming in and Medexam would have something nice to say, and she wouldn't let that person sit there for long. She brings them in, and it's people like the two of you that make this community what it is. I'm not kidding. I'm gonna get tears in my eyes because I just think so highly of you, and you make a difference to people that are coming in, that are a little bit more introverted, that are just kind of dipping their toe in. Because you look at how many viewers that we have, and you're starting to see, the same names, and we're starting to learn more about each of those names. And then I love the banter. You got Leota and
Mr. Leota.
Leota,
Jessica
Jessica.
Wright.
Yes. Oh my gosh. If you sit there and watch them, start cutting on one another, they're hilarious. And we're laughing. This is some tough stuff that we're going through, and we've gotten rug pulled, and we've just been beaten up and through our own version of the Q boot camp. And you get people like Rambo in there and those guys where we gotta laugh. I mean, and it feels so good to laugh. Doesn't it feel good to cut up, even though we're talking about some tough stuff? And
absolutely. And there's a true miracle happened in the chat community. And I have to really credit Beer at the Parade, Scott Zimmerman.
yes,
He has been such a huge help to so many people. And that he was the person that literally helped Sean and the girls start his podcast. And all of you were involved too, the whole chat family. It was amazing to behold. And Mr. Leota jumped in with a logo and probably the most beautiful video about our movement.
that video is
it's incredible.
Oh.
But that's what the chat family did. We had Rose coming in, we had Yale PhD who had a saying, and Scott really helped that. And it truly was a miracle. And Sean was able to do, obviously he's still doing the show, but it was so funny. His very first podcast reached number 17 on the Rumble board.
I didn't know that.
That's wonderful. For the very first one. I mean, what a miracle that is.
Wow.
And, I just wanted to also say, which I talked about a little earlier, the chat family has so many incredible people in there with so much knowledge. And, I just hope that people will come out and feel more comfortable to tell their stories, create friends with other people in the chat. And I see it happening. It's beautiful, really.
It is very beautiful. And to your point, though, there are thousands that watch, and I do believe that the hundreds or so people that are commenting are the ones that want to dip their foot in. And so it's up to the moderators to say, hey, as they're dipping their foot in. And you all do such a wonderful job. Chickaboom, has there been anybody that sticks in your mind of was someone that kind of dipped their foot in, or someone that sticks in your mind of the different comments or something that they made by chance?
Oh, I am Taylor is in the chat a lot, and she's really knowledgeable on stuff, and she asks really intelligent questions and has a lot of information to offer. And that's another thing that I enjoy, is that I learn a lot from the people in the chat also. They're not just, for me, I was in there at first just because, you feel so isolated at the beginning of it, where there's nobody really in quote unquote real life that's kind of knowledgeable on this. And
Right.
So, yeah, it's people in there like her, another one, Jessica Riot. And again, with Mr. Leota, their banter between each other is hilarious. Just made some nice friendships through there.
Yeah. And to your point, there's so many of us that know what's happening. that don't have an actual human being next to them, that they can share this and have an actual intellectual conversation about these
Right.
things. And so to your point, that the chat is the family and is our human that we can actually talk to and share information and have a conversation with. So you're absolutely right, and I definitely see it growing and growing. I mean, all of this is growing, obviously, which is just it's just so wonderful to see. So just for a few minutes, I would love to, I think we all have a story, and we all have there's a reasons why we were brought into this and why. And you all know, I've said this a million times, but psychologically, this time period, I know, is going to be studied because we were subjected to the same poisoning in the air, poisoning in the water, poisoning in our food, but somehow there's been a group of us that was able to cut through the psyop and seep through it while millions and millions can't. And I know that we all folks that could see this will be studied to understand why. So I just think it's just always fun and interesting to hear bits and pieces of your stories too. So MedExam, I just want to start with you. Um, Tricia and I were just speaking about both of you, and we just think the world of both of you and want to hear your stories. And so tell us just briefly, as much as you wanna share or not, your life and, growing up, and just tell us a little bit more about you.
Sure. This will have to be the condensed version. But anyway,
Sure.
I was so lucky because my parents were able to give me a very nice upbringing. I actually grew up on a farm and I spent a lot of time outside just in nature. But at the same time, I went through major indoctrination school. I went to a prep school, a fancy prep school for high school. And then I went to an Ivy League college. And then I went to medical school. And then I did 5 years of residency. And I thought to myself, why did I go through all that and I didn't get indoctrinated? I think two reasons. There was always a part of me. And I remember actually Dave and a couple other people saying this when they were little kids, they would always ask, why? That was me. I would always say, why? Yeah, Tricia, why? And I was never satisfied with the answer. And I always thought something was fishy. Plus, I'm kind of like a geek and semi high functioning autist type person, but I have a photographic memory. And that's what helped me in school. I would literally listen to the teacher or the professor write everything down and spew back like literally 40 pages of exactly what they said. But in doing that, it went in my head, one side out the other, and it never sank in. And so I really think that's one of the reasons that kept me from being indoctrinated. Then it really, when I started working as a medical examiner, Medexam,
Mhm.
forensic pathologist, I totally noticed that the news was lying all the time because I was the one doing autopsies on a lot of these homicide and other cases. And I never once saw a news article that was right. The biggest problem was what they omitted, the omissions. I mean, I had a case, this is horrible, but it was 11 people killed in one house, including a 6-month-old and a 5-year-old. Did anyone hear about that? Never, because it didn't fit the narrative.
Wow.
So that was a big awakening. And I'm a military spouse. My husband passed away last year, but I really relate to Melissa Cutler because we had horrific things happen with the VA at Walter Reed and a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, those were, and then obviously COVID. The last thing I want to say is that you can search for the truth. And this is what happened to me. I could read many books, get all the information, but until it went from my head to my heart, it was just more information. And COVID struck me in the heart because I realized I had spent so many years of my life to become a doctor, and we were being betrayed, and they were literally killing people. And that was the wake up in my heart, and to get me activated, because I knew a bunch of stuff. We all have heard the theories about globalism, but until that's what did it.
So how did you, there's lots of doctors and nurses and things that it didn't affect them in a heart and knew that they were being lied to. Why do you think that you knew we were being duped with all of this?
I think part of it is being a forensic pathologist. I was outside the area where I could be bribed or paid extra money. Plus, I'm also retired. But even if I weren't, that's a big thing. But even if I weren't retired, I would still be screaming, and I would have refused to sign the fake COVID death certificates. I mean, I don't know. And that's one of the things that disturbed me more than anything. Why, I could see it so clearly, and these other doctors were so flaky and they weren't saying anything. I mean, there were some, obviously, Simone Gold and Ryan Cole and Sherry Tenpenny and all of the wonderful frontline. But that really got to me, that those were the only doctors speaking up. And I don't know, maybe it was my profession. Maybe it was being retired and I had the luxury of not being able to be blackmailed per se. But part of it was just a feeling from God of what was right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's incredible to me. And then just to go back quickly to the veterans story. So you just see at the time the veterans were not taken care of well and were obviously that's a world I don't know, but they were not taken care of your husband was not. Tell us about that.
Well, this started way before I was married, when he was actually drafted into the Marines for Vietnam, one of the few people drafted. And he got blown up and had horrible injuries, shrapnel, 200 pieces of shrapnel that he had inside him still to the day he died. And the MASH unit saved him in Vietnam. So for that, I'm very grateful. But then he was spit on when he came back, which most Vietnam vets had a horrible experience. And he would try to go to the VA hospital and they treated him horribly. It was the worst medical care. And at Walter Reed, because of his blast injury, he had a piece of shrapnel sitting right in the wall of his carotid artery. And this neurosurgeon was about to do a test, like to push all this dye up there, which would dislodge the shrapnel and probably give him a stroke and kill him. And the neurosurgeon had the totally wrong diagnosis, but I just happened to see him in the hallway and tell him about the shrapnel in the carotid artery, and he better not do that test. And like 30 minutes before the test was going to happen, he canceled it. But if I hadn't happened to see him in the hallway, who knows what? I mean, it was a disaster. So I don't want,
Of course.
I have a lot of stories, but
Is that how you met him?
And
Is that how you met him, Medexam, in the hallway?
That's how I met the neurosurgeon. It was a chance meeting, and I happened to see his nameplate and see that he was the guy on record for doing my husband's procedure. And I'm saying, do you know that my husband has a piece of shrapnel embedded in his carotid artery? And if you send that dye up there, it can make it break off and give him a stroke. He's like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm going to have to rethink that. Anyway, yeah.
And there's no accidents, obviously, there was no coincidence that you happened to run into the doctor
Yeah,
30 minutes
yeah,
before that was supposed to
E-
happen.
yeah.
Exactly. And the other weird
Uh,
thing is they had me on the record as being dead as his spouse. That was another weird thing. Sort of
heck.
technical glitch, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah, just a little technical glitch.
Right,
That's all.
a little
Yeah,
technical
that's
glitch.
crazy. So Chickaboom, we all want to hear about your story growing up and kind of where you're from and a little bit of your childhood and who you are too.
Oh, well, I was born, raised, worked, and retired in Minnesota.
Oh,
And back then it wasn't quite as liberal as it is now. Um, I wasn't super good in school and later found out that it was because I was dyslexic. So it was kind of, you just learn in a different way and they don't accommodate for those ways back then. So I guess I was a little bit of a trouble, never really got in trouble, but always, like you, Chase, I would always question things.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't absorb things by reading. It was more of observing and, sensing things. And so when I got out of school, I went into dental assisting. And during the course of the years, I learned how to kind of make my own learning tricks and use, I don't know if you know the word mnemonics,
Mm-hmm.
they're shortcuts for learning and just, because you have to know it's a whole different terminology, when you go into dentistry or medical stuff like you did, Chase. And and I did really well with that and got through school well and went into dental assisting and did that my entire career for about 35 years. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I loved working with kids. If they were scared or something, I would, if I didn't need to use one of my hands, because it's four-handed dentistry, so you're usually using both hands, but I would hold the kid's hand and just say, well, if you feel some pain or, uncomfortable, I said, just squeeze my hand and that'll transfer some of that to me. So then you won't feel it as much. And so, just doing cute things like that with the kids, just helping them to feel comfortable, showing them what we were going to work with and putting things on their finger first so they could feel, what it would feel like and just calming them. Just gave me a lot of satisfaction in doing that. I enjoyed that a lot. I was married, had two kids, and they're grown adults now in their 40s. And yeah, we were fortunate to retire we were 55 when we retired, my husband and I, and we were fortunate enough to do that early. So it was nice to be able to do some traveling. We took some cruises, went to Ireland, and just got our traveling in before it's not really physical for him right now to do any of that. So yeah.
I mean, so that's wonderful, but I know you had told me he has a hard time seeing. So obviously you were able to do all that before that took place for him.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is great. And so tell me too, during the pandemic, is what time period opened your eyes more to all of this and made you really want to dive into the truth of things?
I'd say 2020. We got our traveling in and we were retired and just kind of settled in. And it's like, okay, I've got all this time on my hands. And like I say, listened to some of the shows and just started digging a bit. But again, I'm not really a book learner. So that part was hard. I tried looking into the drops and that kind of thing. And it just wasn't clicking. So I really appreciated the shows that explained all the drops and how things tied into each other. So yeah.
So could your husband see it as well? Because so many spouses don't see.
No. I mean, I'm the lunatic of us, the two of us.
Yeah, well, we have something in common then, Chickaboom, because I'm in the same boat.
Are you?
Yeah, and my husband was he was 4 years in the Marines, and very, very. I just feel like I'm really worried that when he does find out, what the military was really used for,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's just going to break his heart, and I think he's going to have a very, very difficult time. And so, I try to remind myself of that when I want to kill him.
I'm unfortunate. My kids are conservative, and so they kind of thought the same way. The three of us are not vaxxed, but I had friends who have had 4, 5, 6 vaccines, and we'd go over their houses, and one gal would pull her chair away from me because I wasn't vaccinated, and it's so.
How odd is that? We're the ones that should be pulling our chair away because they're shedding on us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we
And so
don't. We're just nature. We still. I mean, I don't know. I don't even. I did tell my friend the other day, she was talking about getting the shingles vaccine. I said, I hope you don't. I said, but if you do, let me know, because I really don't want to get too close to you for a while.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I mean,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on it. You said 3. Does your husband, did he get the vax?
He did. He got the first 2.
My husband did too. I begged and pleaded and everything, and cried and did everything I could, and he did as well. And it's. I mean, I don't know how you felt, but I know it was really. I felt such betrayal, and I felt worthless, that if I couldn't get him to believe me, no one was going to believe me. If I couldn't get the most important person in my life, if they weren't going to at least try to trust me, I felt like a failure.
Yeah, that's tough. I actually do have a positive story about the vax. I didn't take the vax, and neither did my husband. And I was so fortunate that he really believed me about that. And, he did a whole bunch of stuff for the US government after the Marines. So for him to believe me, that was a big thing. And I was reading about the mechanism of action about the vaccine before it even came out. And I was like, what? This is horrible. I mean, they're going to send an mRNA, whatever geno thing in there, and then your own immune system is supposed to make clones of the antibody. That's literally equivalent to some types of cancer, light chain disease, and types of multiple myeloma. As a pathologist, I would diagnose I said, this is crazy. And so I told my husband, I explained, and because of his ongoing job, he had a bunch of Marines in this computer group. And he said that he warned the Marine Corps at least 6 months ahead of time not to take the vaccine, or at least to do some kind of maneuver where they would replace it with something. And he did get back to me that the Marines were warned, and they did know, and they did take some actions. So that's very good to know. I don't know how far it went, but I can tell you that. And that was because I always wanted to help, and I was screaming and nobody would listen. My own family, which I'm sure wouldn't talk to me for 4 years. No Thanksgiving, no Christmas. But at
wow.
least, horrible. At least if I did that one small thing and got someone in the Marines to listen, that was good.
Medexam, are you a Fed?
I might be a Fed.
But that's crazy, Medexam, that for 4 years. And so, has that changed at all? Has they have, I'm, I know I'm sure they haven't apologized, but have they started asking questions? Has anything changed at all?
Well, you know what's really sad? When my husband died, March 12th, 2024, I had no idea if when I say family, I'm talking about my parents and my brothers, were even going to come to his funeral. That's how much we weren't talking. So literally, I didn't think they were going to come, but they did show up. So I have to give them credit. And then, my parents got sick, both of them, they're in their 90s. So I went up to try to help. And I'm still doing that. And so there's kind of a detente, but then at the last time I tried to talk to my dad and say, about all of the stuff going on with COVID, at least we're learning information. He's like, what are you talking about? Everything was great. And he had this little sticker on the desk for all the boosters that he was going to get. I'm like, it's just, and I was flabbergasted. I thought at least maybe somebody would acknowledge that they were wrong. That's the other thing I'm learning. We cannot wait for, they will not apologize.
No.
You just have to pray and hope but I'm not waiting for an apology. I don't think it's coming.
Right. Yep, I don't think it's coming either. It's, I think it's so interesting because, when we all started with this, and I think we talked about this with Scott, is that, initially we were all so gung ho because we're all such warriors too in this group. And so we wanted to share, we wanted to wake people up and shake people, and then we've learned over the years that we can't. Yeah, and we're understanding psychologically more what is happening to people. Even though we don't see their blinders, they're there, right? And so it's softened all of us, I think, in our approach and how we understand them and how we feel about them. And what do you feel, Tricia? Don't you feel like that too?
Yeah, and it just, until you go through it, and you just see the wall that you just keep running into, and I think we probably have all done that, and it's literally like, until God decides to lift the veil on these
Right.
people, it seems like there's absolutely nothing that we can do. And I guess we're just all growing, evolving, and it's God's plan. But I
Yeah.
know I've told stories of, sound the alarms. I was all over social media in 2020 trying to warn everybody, and that was using my real name account on Twitter. And then my husband comes to me and he's like, "You're never going to get any business. Look at you. You look like a crazy woman out there." And I was just trying to save the world.
Exactly.
I was just trying to sound the alarm, and had a lot of egg on my face. And like I said, I think we're going through, it's like a boot camp. We're all completely humbled and have these stories of where we just, put our reputation, look like a crazy person. And, you're just kind of like, okay, bring it on. What's next?
Yeah.
I feel like,
Yes.
I've already done that. I can't get much lower in people's eyes. I can't screw up much more. I should be careful about not saying that. But I don't know, Chicka, did you have a moment where you just kind of went way too far and with someone?
Oh, I wouldn't say too far, but I recognize that I couldn't go any farther. Yeah, it's just, you just have to let go and let God. And if they come around, you're here to kind of help them and enlighten them a little bit. Yeah.
That's so interesting with you, ChickaBoom, is because you and your kids are on the same page, but your husband isn't. Does that make him question what his feelings about things more and getting the vaccine? Does he do that with you guys?
No.
No.
No, he just said, well, you told your kids not to get it, and so they're not going to, just because I told them to, but they wouldn't have gotten it anyway, because that's, just the way that they are. But my stepson and his wife and our grandson all got vaccine. And so it's just kind of and we don't talk about it. And so it's, got to do what everybody's going to do what they're going to do. And luckily everybody's still okay. So.
Right.
Yeah.
It's as you were talking, it's so interesting because I think we were all, even though we wanted to spread to the world the news that we know, we were also pretty quiet and when uh people in our family were not agreeing with us at all, and we were the ones actually, even though we knew the truth, we were the ones that were quiet in that respect when we were being hammered, you know,
Mhm.
and they were very vocal. But I think they're quieting down a little bit. The ones who have gotten the vaccination. At least that's how I
Mhm.
feel. They're not quite as verbal to us and making us feel like we don't know what we're talking about. It seems to have quieted down a little bit. Hopefully, that's what this period has been about too. You know. Um, but I wanted to touch on another thing too, just with Chick-a-Boom. So you're from Minnesota. Have you seen, um, visually a difference? Because I hear so many things about that state and what is it's turned into. Where you are, do you feel it at all or do you not feel it?
I guess I should have added, we retired in Arizona, in excuse me, in Arizona. So we've been in Arizona since full-time. We kind of went back and forth between Arizona and Minnesota for about 4 years, from 2010 to 14. And we moved to Arizona full-time in 14, so we've been here.
Oh,
But we have a
wow.
lot of friends who will come to Arizona in the winter, for the winter months, so we see all our Minnesota friends. It's just insane up there. Absolutely insane.
Like how?
Oh, just the political views. It's just,
Mm,
I mean, they're like Chicago and New York and all the rest of them.
mhm.
So it's a mess up there.
Yeah,
And
it
that's,
really is, and it makes me wonder what's gonna drop first. Don't you all
yeah,
think about that? Like, what state or what dominoes where it's gonna fall first? I think Paul had think it's gonna be California that is gonna expose things first. I don't know. Is it gonna be New York with the mayor? I don't know.
I don't know.
What are your thoughts on that?
They're kind of running parallel, but um,
Mhm.
yeah. And now
Yeah.
we've got two folks on each side of the the United States, so maybe
Yeah.
you can be our eyes and ears.
Well, I mean, Q did say, watch California, watch New York. And that's exactly right. We have Newsom and all the craziness in California. And now we have the Mom Dami show in New York. And once again, to me, it seems like you have to show them, you can't tell them. And all of us have experienced that personally, I believe. So now we're seeing it on a society wide level. But even with all of that control, I still think there's people struggling and hurting at the local level. You know,
Yeah.
bad things are happening, and that's why I'm so happy to see all of these new podcasts, you know, different shows, and even like Sean's show where people can call in. But there's always a story of hope and inspiration, you know, and it literally is no one left behind, which
Yeah.
is what the show is about, no matter what's happening on the big scale of things.
Yeah. And don't you think this is kind of layered what's happening, but don't you think that we're in a period, like you said, Chase, is that we're trying to help those in our community now get in a good place, feel included, get because the more people who have the eyes to see like we do are in a good place
Yes.
because we are going to be needed
Yes.
when the whole thing gets exposed. Don't you think?
Absolutely. You know, we are here to comfort those. That was also in the Q drops. I forget the exact words, but you're absolutely right. And to me, this is another miracle to watch it happening. I mean,
Yeah.
we are living through incredible time. What a time to be alive. We've seen that, but it's true. And every day I'm witnessing it. More and more people connecting, more and more people helping each other in the chats. Like sometimes I don't even have to be a moderator because someone will ask a question. Another awesome Anon comes in and says, here's the answer.
And you might be getting more followers now that the cable, YouTube and Disney are having their little fight. The guys aren't getting their football. So maybe that's going to drive them online. I don't know.
Exactly.
It is interesting because they're going after that audience now. The ones that were sitting on the couch watching sports and they weren't paying attention to what was going on with their country. Now the operation is speaking that language to that audience and exposing the corruption and the cheating and the, hey, you think it's rigged? And that's, I think, has been very fun to watch.
Yes. It really is to be able to watch and see how they're trying to hit every single corner to try to hit some people that it might,
Although I don't think we're happy to have, angry husbands who can't watch their sports, but it's a necessary thing. You have to show them, right?
Yeah. Yes. And what's interesting, this is so interesting, I think, so this MK Ultra thing that we've all been learning about that has done a job on us. And if the good guys indeed are using that, Medexam just
she froze up.
But if they're using, the good guys are using that to try to unbrainwash us, to try to soften us, do you think? Because I think they're using the same techniques in a good way. ChickaBoom, do you think that too, that they're using that same psychological to try to affect us in the right way?
Well, definitely. Yeah.
Even in the way that Trump repeats, when they say repeats necessary, Q says repeats are necessary. I think that's got multiple meanings too.
There.
Yeah, so
there you are.
Central casting.
Yes, that's okay.
Sorry about that.
You're back. Yes, great. Yeah, but we were just talking about how psychologically we think the good guys are using the same tactics to try to unbrainwash people.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, that's just so fascinating to me, Medexam. So when you were in the forensics, there's psychology. It's in everything that we do. Were you really in charge of just of taking those that have already passed and figuring out what happened to cause it? Did you have to deal with the police? Did you have to deal with relatives? I mean, what was all that? What was that whole little world about?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because forensic literally means application of science to the law. And in my case, it was pathology. So doing autopsies or external examinations to determine cause and manner of death. But so you really had to know all of basic medicine, and you also had to know ballistics. You had to know trauma, different wounds, how wounds affect the human body, and also work with law enforcement, detectives. You had to work with district attorneys. But the thing I will always remember is working and helping the families. And I never knew that was going to happen. But literally, I would take the time to sit and talk to families that had horrendous losses. There was a gentleman that had basically 9 people in his family die simultaneously in a house fire, once again, including small children. And this gentleman made the effort to write me a letter of thank you just because I listened.
After losing 9 people. And
right.
Wow.
He took the time. I still have the funeral card that he gave me with the 9 people. There was another guy in Kansas City whose fiance kind of got her head removed in a car. And I just listened to him and let him talk about his feelings. And he sent me a letter of thank you. I was blown away. And I mean, maybe that experience also helps in the chats, because if you just are there and tell someone, I see you and I'm listening to you, no matter what people have gone through, if you just have someone there able to say that and respect them for what they went through as a human, that makes all the difference.
Did you always want to follow that particular path when you got into medicine? Because the way you're talking, I'm like, I bet you Chase was one of those kids that was like dissecting the frog with vigor in biology class, where I'm like trying to get my, I'm batting my eyelash just trying to get my, lab partner to do all the work because I'm completely like freaked out. And, you've always got that person that.
It's interesting. I did like that, but I never saw myself as a pathologist. I actually wanted to be a neurosurgeon. I really liked neuroanatomy and I really liked surgery, and I was very good with my hands dissecting and also with the neuroanatomy. And one time in medical school, we just had a rotation at the medical examiner's office. I just did it randomly and I loved it. And I never knew I would love it. It was just because of that combination of working in the medical field, but also working with regular people, detectives, attorneys. I've done plane crashes, all kinds of stuff so I switched everything around out. And I also knew if I went into neurosurgery, I would not be able to have a family, because you have to commit 100% to that. And I said, someday I really would like to be married and have children. I do have a wonderful son now. So that chance encounter just changed everything. And I went into forensic pathology. Also because my teachers were excellent, the professors at the medical examiner's office.
So you would think profession that you would be like not interacting with people. Like, you're working with dead people every day. Is like, you would think it would be this personality of this introvert that didn't want to have that outside interaction. And then here you are, you're like the complete opposite.
It's so funny. People would make jokes. Other people in my medical school class say, oh, Chase is going into forensic pathology, because I kind of am a geek and I feel so comfortable here talking, but out in the real world, I'm actually kind of shy. So, people did say, oh, Chase is just going to go work with dead people. Maybe that's a good thing, because I was like socially like a nerd kind of. And I was like, you know what? That's fine, because I like it and I'll find a place to help people wherever I am. That's how I saw it.
No, that's interesting. We didn't know this, but we have two people on here from the medical side. I didn't realize with ChickaBoom being in dental.
ChickaBoom, awesome.
Yeah. So that's interesting the way that worked out. And you talk about how much you loved it. First of all, can you tell me when did they stop putting mercury in our kids' cavities?
Oh, it wasn't that long ago, actually. It was probably, about 20 years.
It's a good data point to know, just given.
When I started, we weren't even wearing gloves. I had people's saliva and blood under my fingernails. And I think that's what helped make my immune system so strong, because I rarely get sick. But yeah, I worked back in the day where we had the liquid mercury, where you would blend the powder. There's a powder substance, I can't even remember the name of the powder part, but then we had liquid mercury, and we would put both into a little capsule and then put it in the titrator to mix it all up. And then we take it out, and then we had like a little, we call them squeeze cloths. It's like a fabric. And then you take that soft amalgam that is formed, and then you roll it into the squeeze cloth to get the excess mercury out. Well, we weren't wearing gloves at that point, so the cloth sucks out the excess mercury and then, onto our fingers. So, it's amazing. I'm surprised I made it this long. When I think back about how we were exposed to so much.
Yeah.
without wearing gloves and liquid mercury around and all the rest of it. So,
wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also on that level too, no one is looking forward to going to the dentist. So the
Right.
fact that you say that you loved it for 35 years, you obviously have something in you that wants to make people feel, not only the children, but adults obviously feel comfortable and having the best experience possible going to the dentist. That's a challenge. I would think a lot of people just couldn't handle that for very long because most people don't come in the greatest mood. I mean, was that a challenge
Yes.
for you? How was that with you?
Well, one of the funnest ones with me was how this big, biker Harley guy came in, tattoos and everything, a big tough guy. And he was scared as a mouse.
Oh,
And so that was challenging, but to win people over at the end of an appointment like that is really, really rewarding.
yes. Good for you. Yes. And just like Chase got notes from people with the most catastrophic thing, you might not, because it was the dentist, you might not have got it notes, but you would actually change the course of a day for someone by making something that they were scared about all morning turn into something not so bad because you were there.
That was
We
our
never know
goal.
how we're going to affect people,
Yeah, that was our
right?
goal. And I was fortunate enough to work for some really great dentists who treated their patients well and did good work for them. So it was always rewarding to be in that situation. I don't think I could work for someone who didn't put their patient's interest first.
Absolutely. So I have to ask you a question about fluoride.
Good
So
question.
was that your question?
Good
Yeah.
question.
I mean, because, we all know that that's not the positive thing that we thought it was back
Yep.
in the day. So obviously, the people that you work for thought that it was the positive thing. When was that something that you learned about, and did you immediately say, "This is ridiculous," or tell me your journey about the fluoride journey?
Well, I was out of dentistry by the time I realized that fluoride was not a good thing. And kids would come in every 6 months for their checkups, and we would put fluoride into little retainers or whatever, and have them bite down on it for like 3 minutes, and that's oozing into their mucosa, and they're swallowing it a little bit, and it's like I just feel terrible doing that to kids. My kids, on the other hand, they grew up. We had well water at our house, and my kids grew up, and so they did not have fluoride, and neither my daughter has never had a cavity in her deciduous teeth or her permanent teeth, and my son has had maybe a couple in the last 10 years. So it's like it's not the fluoride that actually it does any. I'm convinced anyway that wasn't the reason for the fluoride.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's and we're listening to BB's journey, as she tries to stay in her profession with her day job, and the more that she's learning, and that her practice is still recommending Tylenol. You can just see the internal struggles that she's going through. I know there's a lot of reasons why I didn't want to be in corporate America too, because things just weren't making sense to me, and I was always asking why. And I was watching corporations lay people off for no reasons, just because they want to impress the stockholders, and then the next quarter they turn around and try to spend a lot of money in marketing to tell everybody they have great culture. And there was, so my world of starting to see where things just weren't right. I wasn't in a position where, like, some of the people in the medical industry that are waking up and are learning, but then they're still being told that they have to shut up and do this if you want to keep your job. So I feel for those people, because I know it's got to be a really hard decision. So ChickaBQQM, you're probably glad that you didn't know all of those things, because you may not have been able to do a whole lot about it back then.
Yeah, it would have been tough. It would have been tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure that's happening more and more across the board in every part of the world. I mean, you turn one way, we're lied to, you turn the other way and you're lied to. And that's why I think we do have that greater understanding of the greater good of God, because it would bring most people to their knees to know what we've been lied to about. So we just have to have that greater faith. And, I have to say, this has been such a joyful, amazing first episode of Labor of Love. I really can't believe it. This is because you two are the epitome of that. And we just want to get your last words of your thoughts of what's of in general what's happening, of what you see think coming, and and just your thoughts in general of what you think is going on now and what's coming. Chickaboom, you want to go first?
Oh gosh. None of us know what's coming. But
Just in your heart.
yeah, no, I have faith that it's going the way it's supposed to. God laid out his plan. Trump has been part of it for decades, in my belief. And,
Mhm.
they caught them all, and it's just going to pan out the way that they feel that they can feed it to the public. Like I say, a mass awakening. So, but I'm cool as a cucumber on it. My husband will come and say, watching Fox News, and he'll go, "Oh, they said this and they said that, and this, they've been pardoned, so they're going to get away with it." And I just look at him and say, "It's not going to hold." It's just like I just kind of blow things off. So it's like, yeah, no, I'm fine with how things are going to pan out.
Sit back and count the 17s.
Yeah, if we get red pill, well, there's nothing we can do about it. So it's like, okay, we're all along for the ride. And I'm glad I have the online podcasters and the chat people and everything to share it with, and we can all support each other through it.
Amen. That is so true. What about you, Medexam?
Well, I'm just really honored and humbled to be part of the chat family and the Anon community. It's meant so much to me. And I heard something that happened decades ago where it was told about a great awakening would happen at this time and we would all learn the truth simultaneously. And this was a military type report. But I'm watching that happening right now. And that's what really gives me so much hope, because I heard about this decades ago and now I'm seeing it happening. And once again, I'm going to go back to the chat family, because there are so many great people there with so much knowledge, and I see everyone supporting each other, and I'm seeing people stepping up to do their own podcasts, and I remain extremely optimistic that everything is on track and God is guiding us. And like all other Anons, I'm just here to comfort those around me as well as I can do it. And thank you for having me on.
Oh, amen for sure. This has been so awesome. And what about you, Cackle Smack, Tricia?
Medexam waits until we're going to close and drops this secret military report. She just sort of drops it and we're supposed to sign off now. You're a tease.
Yeah.
She's
another episode.
She's coming back for part 2.
Right, part 2.
Oh no, I love this. I love this. I was so excited when we were talking about doing this. We've been looking forward to doing this. We just want to say thank you. And we just, I know you aren't, I know you're not doing this for any kind of recognition or anything, but you deserve some recognition and you deserve some love, because you make a huge difference and you've changed and helped so many people you don't even know, I'm sure, that you've helped. And they're going to keep coming out and telling stories. So thank you for coming on with us, because you're going to help encourage other people to come on and tell their stories that aren't used to being in the limelight, I'm learning to be in it a little bit more too. And Medexam, you've been getting some screen time.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Everybody is really enjoying and wanting to get to know you better and better. And ChickaBoom, I think you should change your name to Cool as a Cucumber.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're awesome, ChickaBoom.
Yes,
I want to be like ChickaBoom.
Yes, you're just walking like, you're walking in the right path, the way that we're supposed to. People are going to look at you and go, "Why is she so calm? What does she know that I don't know?" And that's a great example of what
I'd rather live it this way than being on edge and not, I mean, to be alive at this point and know what's going on, and then say in 10, 15 years, everything comes out, and the people who have been sleepwalking through this are going to say, my God, this happened right in front of my eyes, and I did not see it.
And they're missing the show.
Yeah, exactly. This has been so exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and how cool is that we see the show going on and we're not missing it? Thank you. I mean, I thank God every day. I mean, that's so cool. And that's why people are going to be, to your point, the next 10, 15 years are going to have to catch up, and they are going to go back and be like, what, it was right here. He was telling us, they were showing us. Well, how did we miss it? And we're just going to be like, well, yeah, well, and so it's just going to be so interesting as time goes on. And that's why even shows like this are important, because all of you play such an important role, um, in just showing love, a labor of love, and helping people one at a time. And so thank you all so much, and for your continued help and support with this wonderful, unbelievable, one of a kind movement that we're in. So thank you all so much for being a part of our first labor of love.
Bye.
Love you all.
Bye.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.